Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the MICROSAIC Systems PLC investor presentation for the interim results for the 6-month ended 30th of June 2021. Throughout this presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted any time via the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just click Q&A, scroll to the bottom, type your question and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. These will be available via your Investor Meet Company dashboard, and you'll be notified once they're ready for your review. I'd also like to remind you that this presentation is being recorded. Before we begin, we'd like to submit the following poll. I'd now like to hand you over to Glenn Tracy, CEO, and Bevan Metcalfe, CFO of MICROSAIC Systems PLC. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the introduction. Well, let's get stuck straight in. We won't go through lengthy introductions. I'm Glenn Tracy, CEO, and with me is Bevan Metcalfe, the FD. So let's go straight to the meat of the deck, and I will turn my camera off, and Bevan will as well, so you can see the whole screen. Great. Okay, so headline figures, almost 600% up on the same period last year, but 52% up on the same period in 2019, which really I think is a pre-pandemic benchmark. It really is worth pointing out that despite emerging from an extremely difficult 2020, we posted the best bottom line performance in the company's history. And that really comes from both top line expansion and good operational management. So the next couple of slides, we're just going to take you through some of the highlights of the first half and then post-period. So we started the year with a fundraise that ensured that we are well funded to deliver multiple value back to you, our shareholders. At the same time, we changed the board and we switched our business model from one of transacting one-off capital sales to delivering to what I would call headline relevance. And what I mean by that is, the kind of headlines you read about. So that is all about using our unique technology and the capabilities to take high-end laboratory performance out into the front line. And that will entail, or is entailing, screening solutions to solve real world problems in both human and environmental health. So what does that mean? Well, some of the areas that we are now in, pollution in our waterways, that is clearly a headline item. Bringing new therapies to market faster and cheaper with our real-time bioprocessing monitoring, testing those therapies real-time in the patient. You will have seen some RNSs out there about therapeutic drug monitoring bedside. And for example, there are other host of application areas, including food, where we're testing what's in the food and to ensure that it's safe to eat and drink. Since the raise, we focused extensively on converting our investments and the proceeds of that to delivering significant commercial turnaround. And you will have seen this year in the first half some significant heads of terms and agreements, should I say, and also some collaborations in key growth markets and in key geographies. We've also been very, very busy in bringing to market new solutions to drive higher revenue per sale through integrating our technology within diagnostics systems, whether that's in human or environmental health. And that really is all about encompassing our technology workflows that consist of hardware and software. And the idea is we take cyclicity out of the revenue profile for the year. Key to having all of that done is that we've got some great capabilities now in house. We've done a good job in hiring. We've got some of the best people we can possibly find to help deliver what we need in the short, medium, and long term. So let's just take a quick look at post period. I'm not going to go through these in detail because obviously this forms the bulk of the deck. But what you can see really from the previous and this slide is that there are a number of key milestones being delivered. And hopefully you can see a rhythm building. I mean, there is a lot of good news being delivered into the market every month, sometimes twice a month. And you will note also a couple of world firsts where we've delivered or been able to categorically demonstrate the equivalence in performance of systems and instruments that are at least 5 to 10 times the price of ours, and also the size, except we've got the clear advantage that we can be used at the point of source, which is really both in human and environmental health such a fantastic opportunity. Slide 6, a reminder of our strategy. So our technology is used in laboratories, in frontline field-based screening, and in real-time monitoring. And that's what sets us apart. We've got really such a broad appeal to a range of different application areas. Typically, when you look at others in our industry, they specialize in one or the other, and we can do a whole range from lab-based portable to online monitoring. We have a very powerful miniaturized technology, and especially if you add in AI or artificial intelligence to establish patterns in the data, you can enable very highly informed decisions. And once you start to connect that through the Internet of Things, you can change the way you transact with the world. And that means that we can install multiplex detectors rather than deal with one-off capital sales, as I've said, to say a single laboratory. You're looking at multiple installs to solve a real world problem, whether that's cleaning your water or monitoring how clean your water is, through to how a company may be developing drugs throughout their organization. And all that headline in human environmental health and also in diversified industries. So we bring new therapies to market faster and cheaper. We're testing those therapies real time in the patient. We're monitoring pollution in our waterways real time. We're ensuring your food is what it says and is safe. And as I said before, I make no secret to the fact that my goal is to add cancer diagnostics to this list. And we are working on that and hope to announce something shortly and deliver something in 2022. Slide 7. Appreciate you may have seen this before, but I think it is important. It is a little bit complex, but actually the message is pretty clear. If you focus on the diagram on the left, we've typically historically been doing business at what I call base of pyramid. Okay, so dealing with capital sales on a long sales cycle, approximately 1 year, in very sciencey instrumentation focused environments. It's a very cyclic model, prone to risks, for example, pandemics. You know, if there's a downturn, you get hit. There's a low consumables and service revenue model from that. Quite honestly, little real world relevance. You know, if you can't describe what you do in a clear, succinct sentence, you do lose people. There's also very limited data and modeling. You know, you're selling an instrument to make a measurement, and that's where the story ends. So move forward really to this year. So not only are we bringing more technologies in at the base of the pyramid to extend our workflows in more application areas in human and environmental health, but our focus has moved significantly towards the top of that pyramid, or that inverted pyramid there. So technology isn't an enabler. It's not just a product sale. We solve real world problems and we offer turnkey solutions. So, you know, we don't just offer a product to monitor water. We are in the business of providing data, turning that into knowledge, and enabling a real time decision so that any kind of situation can be mitigated immediately. So the revenue streams through this model, as I said earlier on, are a lot less cyclic and a lot less de-risked. Plus they deliver towards a growth strategy. So I'm just going to take you through some of the milestones of the year, and you know, you will have heard this. After all, this is looking back at H1, but I'll go through this again and touch on the outlook, of course, in a little bit. In March, we signed a fantastic commercial deal in collaboration with Deep Verge, and that really is to drive our product through their channel in 60 countries. We've shipped over £100,000 worth of kit, well over 100 now. And that will be used to seed business in North America, Europe, and in China, particularly in water detection. We're also assisting them in collaborations with their lab skin biome project, and we're co-locating resource, as I've said earlier, and personnel to their facility in York. So the synergies are clear, and it makes perfect sense to have a united sales and R&D front. So on slide 9, we signed in May a heads of terms with China, with a partner in China. We'll reveal the name very, very shortly as we are working towards a full agreement. But this really is a defining application, not only for MICROSAIC, but for point of care clinical technologies as a whole. And the clincher here is we gain a medical license, which is a massive differentiator for us, and also, in fact, for mass spectrometry. So therapeutic drug monitoring, there are a number of application areas here. So the key here is that when you take a drug, often these particularly serious or these drugs for chronic disease, there is a very therapeutic, narrow therapeutic window. So you can take too much or too little of the drug, and really, actually, that window for each patient is not predictable because we're all different. It can also be used to detect patient non-compliance. So particularly if a person is not taking their medication as prescribed. And also it can detect the effects of other drugs which may interact with the drug of interest and affect the dosage or create any other biochemical interaction. So MICROSAIC's technology combines the power of mass spectrometry with its unique mobile footprint. And that really is a combination which opens up the opportunity of mass spectrometry in a $50 billion market, which is the point of care testing market. Our initial application area is in what we call psychotropic drug monitoring. We'll be commercializing that in 2022 in China. And there are actually a number of other application areas. For example, cardiac drugs, antibiotics, anti-epileptics, bronchodilators, immunosuppressants, anti-cancer drugs, and the list does go on. And we're tackling the first one first, which is psychotropics, but we do have absolutely the objective to tackle these other application areas. We also want to extend this into other geographic markets, and we're looking at the potential of doing that right now. Slide 10, in May, we signed a collaboration with Swansea University, and this is a really unique opportunity for us in the following ways. So it helps us inform our commercial rollout of our water detection systems, number one. The collaboration involves environment agencies and other industrial partners in the UK and involves lab analysis, real-time screening for remote samples, and also monitoring in established utilities companies. So its aim is to really improve monitoring efficiency by embedding our technology within an AI layer, so artificial intelligence. And data is something we talk about a lot, but this is another example where our business model is changing for the better. And the final part is really exciting. As I mentioned before, the key thing to this collaboration, so it's not a short-term collaboration, but there will be good news coming out of it all the way through. But what we want to do is to prove a categoric link between chemicals of emerging concern, such as the PFAS chemicals or forever chemicals, to targeted changes in the human genome. But to do that in a way that you can actually target the specific changes that are happening in the environment to people living in that environment. So really very exciting work, which I am sure will inform policy going forward. So we get industrial partners, we advance our technology proposition to market, and we inform leading edge medical science. So really, as I said before, what's not to love about that collaboration? But also it interleaves very nicely with our collaboration with the Eco Water OS, with the Deep Verge partners, and The objectives here are remote and multiple screening modes and smart water detection. So a very strong link really with the Swansea collaboration. Slide 12. Okay, so sorry, slide 11. Sorry. So absolutely delighted. We demonstrated a world first method for real-time monitoring and control of biologic therapeutics as they're being made. So biologic can be anything really, such as a vaccine or an anti-cancer treatment. And by integrating our miniaturized technology, but actually integrating it with very powerful software and analytics into the bioprocessing workflow, we've actually been shown to speed up the potential of drug development and also reduce the cost of scaling up their production. So, you know, we're different, one, because of our size, and two, because we can monitor multiple elements of the bioreactor in one go, and it can be done real time. So this is why it is a world first. The market for current bioprocessing instrumentation is around about £1/3 billion, and we intend to take a share of this because we simply displace a lot of incumbent technology because we do it better. Our first installs with end users will be later this year, and some of the brands obviously will be household names. Slide 12. So in August, we launched a real-time soil and water monitoring system. And really, I think the pictures on the left paint 1,000 words. So you take the traditional approach to chemical analysis at the top there, which is a large, expensive, traditional centralized lab, far removed from the point of need. So you might be taking a sample from a site. That sampling process is a long and protracted procedure in itself, which is regulated. And it can be up to a week before you get the analysis back, and then you find out actually you sampled the wrong part of the environment. So with our technology, you can see you can take our technology in the boot of a car and monitor that water real time. But the real power isn't just being point of need per se, but actually because you can potentially install multiple units of this in an ecosystem to measure slices either geographically or in time to see what's going on. And with the addition of AI, you start to be able to make models and predict outcomes. I think, though, the key with this is that we've been able to get the same performance as a kit that is between 5 to 10 times the size and also the expense. And we're able to match regulatory methods with our unique detections. So you really do get that regulated information really in the boot of your car. And so you can inform your decisions a lot faster. Market sizing is a tough one. As I said before, even if we installed a small number, saying leading water treatment centers, let alone through the ecosystem, we're looking at a very large install base. Naturally, with our partners in modern water already talking to water authorities, utilities companies, we do have good line of sight. Whereas before, really, MICROSAIC didn't have that unique channel advantage. And I think this is going to be very, very promising in China. So most recently in September, we signed a full agreement with a company we'll call HZH. So this provides us a local presence in China for manufacturing and systems integration and as a service center there. You can't really do business in China from here, from the UK or remote. You've got to be there. We are still manufacturing in the UK, so we're not just shipping all of our manufacturing across to China. And I should say that we're doing this in support of gaining our medical license. So you have to have a presence in China to gain that medical license for the therapeutic drug monitoring that I mentioned earlier on. The facility is 1,000 square meters. We're going to be upgrading shortly to a larger facility. And the reason we chose this particular vendor is that it came as part of a recommendation from our partner we're working with in therapeutic drug monitoring. The directors there have a very long history of working in mass spectrometry. They're involved with the production of scientific instrumentation, and they're also involved in the pharmaceutical industry in active pharmaceutical ingredients. So they do have a lot of experience. So although the company was set up purely for us, they do come with the right experience. I should just touch on the opportunity. So for each application area here, we are expecting in time around about 100 units per application area. As I mentioned on one of the previous slides, there are around 33,000 hospitals in China. And so I think 100 units per application area is, I would say, doable. I would even say conservative. But, if you multiply that up by the number of application areas, you can start to see, hopefully, the size of opportunity that we're anticipating. And also, HZH will be looking at other application areas outside of the medical license opportunity. So in standard analytical instrumentation. And there will be a chance, of course, for distributing that kit back into the rest of the world. So I'm going to hand over now to Bevan to take you through the financials.
Thank you, Glenn. Good morning, everyone. Bevan here from the FD at MICROSAIC. So, as Glenn pointed out earlier, the turnover for H1 was up significantly from a difficult year last year, so up 427,000. And EBITDA loss reduced by 460,000 over last year, which is the best performance since we were admitted to AIM back in 2011. The comprehensive loss did increase over last year due to the share-based payments charge. Then just onto the balance sheet, just to pinpoint a few key things. Inventories reduced from the year-end balances, while trade and other receivables increased, and that was due to the higher level of sales in H1 versus last year. The cash balance increased by 4.1 million over December 2020, mainly due to the fundraise Glenn mentioned, which was in February, and that raised 5.1 million net after expenses. Excluding the fundraise, the burn rate is sort of circa 170,000 per month. And the company, thankfully, has no borrowing. So it's pretty strong, and especially significantly stronger than where we were at the end of last year. Back to you, Glenn.
Thank you, Bevan. Okay, so outlook. So I've been in the organisation since in this role since back end of 2017. I really have not felt so positive in the future of MICROSAIC. We are putting in place some fantastic agreements throughout the world. We are coming to market with products which really touch upon some of the key headline features you're reading about every day in your newspapers. Okay, so that's what I mean by headline relevance. We anticipate the momentum to continue into H2 2021, but I am really very excited about next year. As I've said, the contracts we're signing in China for therapeutic drug monitoring, that is truly a departure for analytical instrumentation and certainly mass spectrometry. There is no other mass spec that's being used in this way bedside. The water monitoring detection will be augmented in H2 with yet more technology that will fit into a nice solution, and that just opens up even more entities that we can detect in water. So these chemicals of emerging concern, we can detect much more of those, and you can read about those in any kind of publication from the European Union and the EPA in the US and also in China. We will be undertaking cell line work with bioreactors this year, and putting in place beta units for that work to get us really firmly placed in bioprocessing for 2022. And we do have a lot of collaborations in place, particularly in multiple disease diagnostics, including cancer. So, what can I say? It's been a good first half, a fantastic first half. We have posted some of the best results in the company history, and really coming out the back of last year, which was pretty horrendous for lots of people. To post those kind of results, I think, is a true reflection of where the company is going, and a true reflection of the new business model and the new board. And with that, I will pass back to you, Paul.
Fantastic. Glenn, Bevan, thank you very much indeed for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, do please continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated at the top right-hand corner of your screen. But just while the team take a few moments to review those investor questions submitted already, I'd like to remind you that recording the presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via our Investor Meet Company dashboard on the platform. I'd also like to remind you that your feedback is important to the company, and immediately after the presentation has ended, you'll be redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order the company can better understand your views and expectations. If I may, Glenn, Bevan, we've received a number of pre-submitted questions from investors, and perhaps if we could start off the Q&A session with those, that would be fantastic. The first one reads as follows: do we see a potential listing on other markets like NASDAQ in the future? And where do we anticipate the share price in the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, wouldn't it be great to be listed on NASDAQ?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there is no plan yet, but that can of course change. You got to look at the cost of a dual listing. I mean, it's not insignificant, but as I say, there is no plan at the moment. Share price, as I say every time, as an exec director, I cannot forecast where the share price will be. All I and Bevan can do is to continue to publish positive results and continue to drive the company operationally. I have to admit it is particularly frustrating. You post good news month after month, and the share price is where it is. But we've just got to continue going, continue with the execution we are tasked to do, and continue to drive sales north.
Fantastic. Thank you, Glenn. Next one we've got here is, now since you have a new business model, do you become profitable earlier?
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's the hope. We don't have numbers out in the market, so I can't comment specifically, but that's the intention. And that will come from, a much more extended channel, for example, through DeepVerge. As I've mentioned, it will come through a lot of the contracts we're signing, which, you've seen some of those in China. It comes from the fact that we're not just dealing with capital sales. Now we are dealing with services and software. So, you're driving a lot more revenue per transaction, if you like.
Given that MICROSAIC has been on average raising funds every 3 years or so, and each time investors are told this is the last time before break even, how certain can you be that this time will be different?
Well, as I said before, I think that if you look at the business, we are the business model transformation. We've put in place the right channel through DeepVerge. We've got a lot of good collaborations with DeepVerge, not only in technology development software, but also looking at joining their channel. We are bringing more products to market. We've brought the bioprocessing product to market. We've brought the real-time water monitoring solution to market in H2 2, and we'll bring a further one out this year as well. We are working in collaborations in other disease diagnostics areas. So, I think if you look at all of those real deliverables, there is a much heightened reason to believe that we are headed for much greater success.
Thanks again, Glenn. Next one we've got here is, can you please give us an update on the collaboration with MIT? What progress, if any, has there been since the start, just over 2 years ago?
Yeah, so I mean, MIT has, they've already helped us inform papers, scientific papers, studies, and the reason we went with MIT is really to get us the data so that we were able to create the go-to-market, if you like, for bioprocessing. So absolutely, I mean, they've done what we said we wanted them to do, which is to be a validation for our technology.
That is fantastic. The next one we've got here is, can we have, if possible, more information on the kind of relationship between MICROSAIC and Pfizer and Merck, for example? Is this something long-term and strategic, sort of short-term research project?
Yeah, it's strategic. It's strategic, and again, the reasons behind it, I've got to be careful because obviously of NDA, but our technology is being used not in a traditional lab setting, so it's being used generally where the product is being designed or manufactured, so you get real-time data. So a lot of companies throughout the world, whether they are in pharmaceuticals or chemicals or veterinary or bioprocessing, they want to be able to get the answer there and then, and they don't want to send a sample off and get it tested, and that's where we are having success.
Super, thank you. When can we reasonably expect some market updates on commercial progress with respect to in-surgery cancer diagnostics?
Yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to start talking about this more this year, and I'd like to see tangible progress in 2022, and I think that's what I said last time. It will take time, but that certainly will that will be defining for us.
Fantastic, thank you. And the final one we've got here is, the company intending or allowed, when agreements are announced regarding bioprocessing collaborations with pharma companies, to disclose those names?
Again, pending NDA, yeah, absolutely. We'd like to, and I think in certain circumstances those companies would like to as well. But as I say, we are limited to NDA.
Good, thank you very much, and thank you for everyone who submitted questions as well. As you can imagine, you've got quite a few as usual. Glenn Bevan, if you could just, if I may, just ask you to click on that Q&A tab, and where appropriate to do so, if I could hand back to you just to read out the question, even who it's from, and give your response, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Are we too dependent on China? No. I mean, I've got to say, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. If we weren't in China, you'd probably be asking us why we aren't in China. So, we are there because it's a decent market. There's a lot of growth opportunity, and the reason we set up the facility we have is you have to do that to operate in China. And to get a medical license, you need to have a facility in China. But that does not mean that we are not doing business elsewhere in the world. What amount of business is coming from the top of the pyramid? I would say it's increasing. And what I would also say, actually what I omitted to say, is that the agreement we've signed with HZH, so there is the revenue we get from the instrument sale to them. We then get a share of the revenue they sell onto a distributor. When the distributor sells onto the end user, we get a share of that revenue, and then we get a share of any service and consumables and reagents revenues. So I'm not giving you specifics, but you can see actually in contractual terms how this is now converting, whereas a normal contract would have just been, here's the price of the instrument on these terms. So a very big departure. We'd certainly like to see more revenues being driven at the top of the pyramid. How much revenue from DeepVerge? As I said in the presentation, well over 100,000. Have those units been sold on through their channel? No, not yet, but that's absolutely the plan. I mean, we are working on the collaboration of water, remote water monitoring with them, and shortly those will be going out through their channel. What's your outlook for 2021, 22? I think in terms of sales, as I said, continued momentum from H1. In terms of this year, 2022, I'm feeling particularly optimistic because a lot of the work we're doing will start to convert.
We've got over 60 patents in terms of MICROSAIC products and components out there, so well protected.
Yeah, thanks, Bevan. Is DeepVerge your only outlet for environmental health solutions, water monitoring, or do you compete with them as well? No, we don't compete, and they're not the only outlet for environmental health. I mean, environmental health is a very big market, but DeepVerge has a very big channel, and we'd be silly not to use their channel in 60 countries. So I don't see it as a negative. But it's no, it's not a non-compete arrangement. We can do whatever we want, and in fact we are. But as I say, it makes most sense to collaborate as closely and as strong as we can with DeepVerge because they have the expertise. Why is the stock market so disinterested? The share price is such a narrow range. Yeah, again, I'm not a broker. I'm not a market analyst. Bevan and I are, the exec directors. All we can continue doing is posting positive news and getting the sales and the fundamentals up. It is frustrating. I agree. Are you working on license for UK markets? I'm not sure what that is, but if it's a medical license, yeah, absolutely. We'd like to extend the medical license into North America and Europe. But that's not a short-term thing, but we would like to do that, and we're able to use the experiences we have in China to do that. Patents, are our products patent protected? Yep, Bevan's just answered that. 60 patents, another question. Why are we not selling units in the UK? Well, we may not have done in H1, but we're tending to go for multiple unit sort of key account installs. So it may well be that those key accounts aren't installing in the UK, for example. The UK itself is, you look at the markets, North America, Europe, and China. The UK is relatively small in comparison. So a question. I'm just trying to. So basically, the question is, how will our water monitoring equipment be received in the market? Are in fact authorities interested? Yes, they are. If you read a lot of the legislation, particularly from the EPA and the European Union, yes, they are very interested in looking for technology like this. And despite moves at the moment with respect to sewage water in the UK, actually monitoring it, they are very interested in as well. We do know that they are looking for solutions like this, and we are talking to the right people. What will you do to audit royalties, etc., due from China? Well, exactly that. So we will audit them. It's a transparent process, and roughly every quarter we go through and audit the books, and we divvy up the share of revenues. Okay.
I think we've
think
pretty much covered everything off then. Of course, if there are any further questions that do come in, Glenn, Bevan, you can obviously review those. We publish responses where that's appropriate to do so. On that basis, Glenn, if I may just ask you just for sort of a wrap up as we redirect the attendees to give you some feedback.
great. Yes. Well, thank you. I mean, I'm absolutely, very happy with the performance in H1. I think coming off the back of 2020 to post some of the best ever results in the company is just tantamount to the fact that our new board and our new strategy is delivering. I do expect a great H2, and we've got a strong pipeline in place to show that. And really, the turnaround is translating into sales, contracts and more sales, and commercializing new products to fuel new commercial contracts and sales in the medium term. And as I say, we're putting contracts in place really globally, full contracts in place, and it's looking to be a great H2 and a very exciting 2022.
Fantastic. On that note, thank you very much, Glenn, Bevan, for updating investors today. Please ask investors not to close this session, as you'll be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete and is greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of MICROSAIC Systems PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation. Thank you and good morning.